long, young.
What is going on? What's happening?
Going.
Happy Monday. I'm like, oh gosh, today's Monday. I wish it was still Sunday, but
I know, but it's okay. That means we're closer to Friday.
I know that's true.
Which it is what it is. I'm not even gonna. Well, first of all, let me just shout out this wonderful shirt that I have. It's available to Be the Joe shop.
And I happen to be wearing the Be the Life version.
Oh,
anyway,
I need to add that to my collection.
Thanks to the shout out, sister.
Yes.
Well, www.buydemitajoe.com. Get you some merch. Yeah. Anyway, what's going on? Because I know you wanted to have this conversation, and I wanted to have this conversation. So many things have happened in this last 2 weeks since this news first came. Well, I guess since the interview. The interview was ago.
It was. You know what? Let me look. Okay, because that was very important. Obviously, oh man, this was from 12 days ago. It's got 12 million views.
So almost 2 weeks. Ago.
Yeah,
12 million views. Okay,
12 million views. And I was just gonna say the Cat Williams joint is at 59 million views, which is wow. I love that. It's because crazy, isn't it great? And it's like, people hope for that on a year or less than that, right? Or
listen, the one that was the video that was the most watched was it Joe Rogan with Elon Musk, and that video was like 4 years old and it had like 60 something million views, but it had been there for 4 years. So this video is definitely gonna beat that. It's definitely gonna beat that.
It is, because guess what? I still haven't watched it for another time. I do believe I watched it twice, but
good interview.
It was so entertaining. And one of the things, and this is perfect because this is how I wanted to start this out anyway, with a shout out to Shannon Sharp, because what I realize is that it's a rare thing to find a platform like that. No, number one, he points out at the beginning of his shows that he is the proprietor of Club Shay Shay, which I think is dope. And then obviously what he's done is he's created a space where people feel comfortable coming and speaking their story, telling their truth, right? And I just think that is so necessary, because really we have a lot of places you could go, like podcasts and there's like the mainstream media, but you can only really get a snippet of really what you want to come out, because there's all these things at play. There's the network and the FCC laws and just different things that can sort of like put a damper on what you're saying. I even went back and watched one of my favorite interviewers with Cat Williams.
Get out of the kitchen.
Larry King. And it was a shorter interview, but I could tell that Cat was more reserved, and obviously he held a regard for Larry King, but it's like so many things.
He knew where he was
that you can't say, right? And then it's it's not, it shouldn't be hard to understand that, like, Shannon Sharp is a part of Black culture. We've seen him be berated on television, and I also just appreciate his representation, like, just for a number of reasons. I appreciate Shannon Sharp, and I've been watching him for quite some time now because of James, and so he does all the sports stuff. And so when he was back on, what was the name of that show? Undisputed, I think, with Skip Bayless. And I used to like Skip Bayless a lot until that day where he said
that day was cringy. I mean,
I went back and watched it after I watched this, honestly, and I was like, maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought. It was worse. It was worse because Shannon was struggling to get his thoughts out. And I know there must have been so many things running through his mind, but he kept his composure. And I would have completely understood if he couldn't do that. But I'm so glad that he did, because
because had he not, it would not have. We know that it would not have, he would not have ended up with Club Shay Shay.
For sure. So, sometimes people do things and it could, like, your reaction to it kind of sets the tone. It's like people forget what happened leading up to that point. So I'm glad that wasn't one of those situations.
So crazy, because that is what you have control over.
Yes.
So like that's what I learned that, man. When I learned that piece of information, I used to be a hothead. Okay, you know this. Once I realized that, this is my energy that I'm giving away, I don't have to react this way. I can still be mad at the person, but let them act the fool. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Once I realized that, I was just like, you know what? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You're in control of your reaction. And yeah, while I'm glad that he did control his reaction, man, it was really hard to go
It
back
was
and watch.
hard.
It was like and I know that, yeah, it's a open space for us to, like, I'm sure everybody's waiting for certain people to go on there, but I know it's so hard for Shannon because he's trying to walk that fine line of not pissing anybody off, but still trying to ask these people the questions that the people want to know. You know what I mean?
He's in a tough spot.
Yeah, he is. He
He's
really is.
spot, but he's holding it. And even sometimes here, and when I went back and watched it the second time, I recognized that he did kind of push back on her on some things. But anyway, one of the things that I just want to say to Shannon Sharp, because I know you're watching, is shout out to you. Thank you so much for what you're providing for the culture, even just having us be familiar with terms like proprietor, which I know what a proprietor is, but maybe some of our young people do not know. And so we appreciate you being the change that we want to see. And we also just appreciate the truthful space that you have sort of cultivated for people to come and speak and be heard. And also just shout out to you for sure, because I can't remember the last time I sat down and watched something close to 3 hours. Like, even that'll turn me away from going to see a motion picture film. Like, there's something out that's like, oh, I really want to see that. And it'll be like, movie time, 3 hours. And be like, never mind. I'll catch it on, on the replay. But then I never watch it because it's like, that's 3 hours. But these things are so interesting to me that I'll sit there and watch them. And I'll watch them twice, right? Not the same day, but you know what I'm saying.
No, but that Cat Williams one, yes, that one was, I mean, and the to think that 58 million people, or not even 58 million people, because people probably watched it over, but that many people like watched that all the way through like that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's amazing. But I've learned to, like, I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, but I love a good interview. Like, I love a good, I don't even care what the interview's about, to be honest. Like, it could be about just this random person and the topic might be good and the interview might get good because it's like good to understand like how other people think. Like sometimes you'll find stuff that you can relate to. Sometimes you'll find stuff that, oh, I never even heard of that. But damn, that explains, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Why certain people may do this. Like, I never thought that was a thing. Like, I didn't know that people could be allergic to popcorn by the smell. Like, I thought that people eat it, right? But this lady in my job, she had like all these other issues too or whatever. But that was the first time I learned, oh, like, she's affected by these regular things that people eat as snacks, but she can't even smell it when she's starting to have a reaction. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
But it's just like, I could have just been like, I could have just been irritated by her, right?
Yeah.
But instead I was just like, oh, well, I don't have to have the popcorn here. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to heat it up here. I can go into the other office and do it and eat it at my desk or whatever, right? But anyway, I say all that to say, like, it's just so good to find like different people's perspective, and that is like why I really love interviews. Like, I just love, you just never know what's going to come out of the interview. Anyway,
I love it. Yes, and what's funny is on this particular topic, because specifically concerning these two people, it's so fascinating because they're telling stories about things that we witnessed right when they were happening, and so to hear their sides of the story, it's like, wow, like you said, to your point, it's like it makes sense to me now. Now, I do want to give somewhat of a disclaimer, like as Demita Jo kind of listed these things out to me before we came on. I agree with her wholeheartedly. I just want to repeat some of these things back. Please feel free to hold me accountable in the comments, or if you're watching the replay. We're going to keep an open mind. We're not going to judge the person, but we're going to observe the behavior, right? And we're going to look for positivity in people. And listen, and that's to say about everybody, like not just about this, but like I think it's important to keep an open mind. Like, me and my sister have had these conversations for over 4 decades about over 4 decades. That's right. I was 2. So, but we've had these conversations our whole lives, and we're just showing you, like, we're just letting you in on it. So, some of this is going to get passionate. We're not, angry at anybody. It's just the way that we think, and we question each other, and we have different viewpoints. And that's why this is going to be so fun, because we don't hold back with each other, and we're very lively, and
right.
I'm very
this
looking
is
forward
the person in the world outside of myself that I can have like the most honest conversation with. So
yes.
this is, this is what it is. This is what it is. And this has just been something that, even though it happened like even though her interview was almost 2 weeks ago, there's been a couple of things that I'm sure everybody has seen that's following the story that has kind of come out. So, I just think that this is going to be a good discussion, because I'm pretty sure, when you see stuff like this on stuff that goes viral on the internet or in these reality shows, like, it's really just like a small example of like what's really happening to people. Some people out in the world may not be you, but this is kind of what happens to these people. You know what I mean? So it's all interesting to me, but yeah, I'm going to keep an open mind. I'm going to keep an open.
I am too. And it was good interview as far as like sound bites. That's a good thing about interviewing comedians, I think, is that they're very aware of like what lands, and, they're very perceptive. They're picking things up while they're speaking. Whereas like a lot of people are just trying to get their words out. But thing about comedians is that they're observing. Part of their job is to take feedback real time. So that didn't go past me either, because I noticed when the second time that I watched it, I picked a lot more up than the first time. First of all, the first time I watched a lot of it on 1.5 times speed. So, because I was trying to hurry up and watch it because I knew we were going to talk about it, but I you know what? I robbed myself of a good time, because some of those pauses and some of those inflections and some of the things I missed because I wasn't paying full attention. And I'm so grateful to have seen it again. Some of these things were great sound bites.
Hilarious.
There were also times though where I felt like I wouldn't have necessarily, I don't necessarily agree with everything that she says. And though I support her, I want to be very clear that two things can be true at the same time. So there's going to be some times here where I'm going to sort of like push back or have an opinion different than hers. Overall, I think it's very important for us to, number one, and I said this before, but like normalize believing Black women, because a lot of people get their story heard before Black women get their story heard. So I feel like it's good that everybody's taking a real moment, a beat to like listen to what she's saying. At the same time, I mean, so this is not to bash her or anything like that. Some of the things that I'm going to say are not going to be in agreement with her, but I appreciate the fact that she really went through this stuff and she has paid a price with her career to go through some of these things, which she didn't ask to go through. At the same time, we're going to get to some other things.
Yeah. This is the perfect time to talk about stuff like this, because as like humans, it's just like in us to just judge people. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, oh, that's either right or wrong. Then this is that. And then you get deeper down into the labels and everybody's a narcissist. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it's like, even though, it's kind of like when you go to the doctor, right? You're not thinking about his personality so much. Like, you just want to make sure that he's being cordial, nice, or whatever. Outside of that, like, you don't really care if he, whatever else he does, because it's not what you're there for, right? That's another aspect of him. He's here to heal your pain, or keep you healthy, right? And so it's like when you find out something about another aspect of that person, it's like much more juicier to know that person, right? And then it's like, let somebody be telling some of their business, when the reality is everybody has had a bad day, everybody has had a good day, everybody knows like to be mad, sad, happy, right? And so it's like, it depends on like the day that you catch these people and whatever the context is that's going on. Like, you could get, any of us could be in any of these situations. Not to say that this exact situation, but we can have our own situation that's not so peachy that we don't want to be, the light to be shined on or whatever. But it's so interesting how, like, when we're looking at these people who we only get a certain aspect of, we're so like sure that no, this is the type of person that they are because I saw this and this and this, and we really don't even know them like that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my gosh, so true.
Crazy to me.
All those things are so true. It really okay. So look, let's start from here. That goes into kind of like the first thing of like who she is, right? Shannon Sharpe started the interview out with a whole long list of accolades, you know, calling her like sort of like a legend. She's obviously very intelligent. She's talented. She's beautiful. She's a strong Black woman. She reminded us several times that she's a fat Black woman, which I'm going to get into a little bit later. But she looks great. Her skin looks amazing. Her style is amazing. She's very well spoken.
I love their outfit.
It was actually a surprise to me to learn that she was in sort of like the slower class. I know that's not, you know, particularly politically correct, but she was with the slow folk, and she said that she did not wear the helmet though. She went on to kind of like talk about her story growing up in Baltimore and wanting to be famous at a young age. She didn't understand what that came with. And I think that a lot of people can identify with that, even if they weren't trying to be famous. Like, things are not always what they seem. But one thing that I gathered from the story is that she was saying that she's going to tell the truth. People tried to jump her in the 12th grade because she was about to tell somebody that the baby wasn't theirs. And then Shannon went on to kind of try to correct that and say, you know, you weren't supposed to tell nobody that. She made a great point. I'll say this. I can see both sides, though. I really want to know your thoughts on this, but I can see both sides in a way that you would hate to go on as a part of something like that. But it's also kind of dangerous when you get into telling somebody else's story and you don't know everything that has transpired. Like, I wouldn't be comfortable going along with a story like that. But if somebody wasn't asking me to corroborate it, like if somebody wasn't asking me like, hey, go tell John that this is his baby, then I could see where there's an opportunity for me to just shut the hell up and not say anything. And now she used an example, and this is where I want your opinion, because we kind of going to go back and forth about this. She used an example about how, you know, you can't go along with something like that because wrong is wrong, and now you're a part of the lie. Then she brought up Harvey Weinstein's name. And she's like, people went along with it because they felt it wasn't their place. Then it becomes bigger, and eventually you succumb to what you support. And so what do you think about her bringing up Harvey Weinstein in this situation? And indirectly, she did it in relation to this story of her being in the 12th grade and telling somebody that the baby wasn't theirs.
Yeah. I mean, I see both sides too. I see what she did there with mentioning that, because I mean, it kind of draws speculation too. When you listen to these comedians talk, you're like, they must know more than they're telling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, why would she mention that? So, but I mean, you know, I feel like I understand what it would look like to mind your business, because a lot of time the messenger does get shot. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes it's like, if it's not directly affecting you, like, let somebody else be the one to tell it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't have wanted to go along with nothing like that either. But I don't know that I would have went so far as to be like, I'm not doing it, but I'm letting everybody else know. No.
It's a bit much. And I think, you know, this is sort of one of the things that I'm gonna bring back again later. But I want to say that, oh, that's not the picture I wanted to show. Sorry about that, everybody. I wanted to say that this is one of the things I have to point out is, as someone's opinion doesn't, having an opinion on something, and especially a strong opinion, doesn't necessarily make it true. And I think this was one of those moments where it's like, I see where she was going with it. She specifically said something like, some people say, well, I'm not going to say nothing. It's not my business. And she kind of contradicted herself in a way, because she was like, if it's your truth, then you can tell it and you can save someone else from going through it. That applies to what she's doing, but that doesn't necessarily apply to telling someone else's story. So I think sometimes
it's not true. That wouldn't be your truth.
That wouldn't be your truth, right? It could be your truth that you overheard someone say this and they were going to do this thing and dupe someone. I completely understand that. And if that's the stance that you're taking, then that's the stance that you're taking. But this is the second time, right, that I was watching this, and some things kind of stood out to me that didn't before. And it's funny because I feel like some of it overlaps into different stories. It's like she kind of explained how the people in the 12th grade didn't like, oh, when I was young, nobody liked me because they knew I was going to tell it. And it's like, okay, okay, so you're saying that out loud, but are you absorbing it? And so, that doesn't make any sense right now, but when we get later on, I just want everybody to kind of remember that, because there were times where I felt like she was saying things and she wasn't really, it's like almost like a mirror sometimes, where it's just like, yeah, that right there. There was even a point, and we haven't gotten here yet, and I don't even know if I'm gonna remember it because I got way too many notes. We're not gonna get through all of those. But where Shannon Sharp had brought up an idea that, like, so when people want you to take on their viewpoint of someone without knowing them and take on their sort of like beef, right? Like, she agreed with him. He was like, okay, so he was like, when people want you to take on their opinion of someone without having that same experience with them, what do you think about that? And she was like, she went right along with it. She was like, yeah, that's crazy that they would ask people to do that. But then that's what she continued to do the whole interview. So it's funny because I didn't notice it before when I saw the interview for the first time, but as I looked back on it, there were several times where I realized she was telling him, like, look into your camera and say this and say that. And I know she's very intelligent in the way this goes. There's going to be lots of sound bites, there's going to be lots of clips, and so she wanted to be able to tell him, right, to hold people accountable. She even explained about calling all these different people that were mutual friends of her, of Tyler Perry and herself, or Oprah Winfrey and herself. So, like, imagine she's going through this thing, and I understand, like, for those of you who have been hiding under a rock, Monique played Precious. No, she didn't play Precious. Excuse me. She played Mary. She played Mary, Precious's mom, in the movie Precious. Just to be real, though, I only saw that movie once. I never planned on going back to see it again because it was just so disturbing. And I recognize that this is real, like, people actually live like this. And unfortunately,
it was after a book called Push or something like that. But I'm like you, I only saw it once as well.
Mm-hmm. And the movie came out in 2009. And, this drama sort of came about once she did not, I'm talking about Monique, after the film was released and it came out to sort of like great accolades, and she was on deck to get the Oscar award, then they wanted to take it overseas and promo it overseas, and she decided that she wasn't going to do that with no compensation. And so typically, I guess, and this is me being green to the music industry, or sorry, to the entertainment industry, that's something that, people don't do. The people don't ask for money for, I suppose. But she was like in a position where she had other paying gigs. She was on a tour. She had her own talk show. And so she could say, like, either pay me or don't. So she didn't do that. I'm just giving a little bit of the background of what happened. That was in 2009. For the next, I would say 10 to 12 years, she was basically blackballed, blacklisted, as she describes. And, typically after someone wins an Oscar award, they're supposed to get, an increase in pay. It's like, look, you've gotten the coveted award, and we, obviously you're worth your salt. You're going to get a 3-picture deal. Like, like everybody's vying for you because we know your work. We know the quality of your work. You're an award-winning artist.
I would think that. And when she talked about the power situation, that kind of blew my mind. Like when she said that Oprah was running around here using her money to get cast in roles that they were trying to give to Monique initially, but she was throwing her money around. I was just like, really, Oprah, you've been doing that?
And so here's the thing too. That is really interesting.
Because you're not even on a Monique level as far as acting or stage presence. Like, you have your lane, but no, like, why would you be doing that?
Yeah, why would she be doing that? And I do take Monique at her word for that, to say, because she said that Lee Daniels gave her that information, that she was the butler, that the butler was supposed to be written, and she was supposed to be in the butler. Monique was supposed to be in the butler, but Lee Daniels said, oh, Oprah wants it and she has the money. Also, when she explained this idea of Oprah having her family on like having Monique's family on her show. And I went and looked up some pictures of it. I didn't go and look at everything. Like, here's the thing, guys. I'm not a real journalist. And some things, it doesn't matter if I saw it or not, because
I saw the video of her brother on there. I saw that was going around on the Instagram. I mean, on the Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
It was going around on Instagram. But what do you have this? What are your thoughts about that?
I thought that was shady. Because here's the thing, I would go, so this is what we've got to get together as a people, is that we, I think a lot of people, when Monique first started talking about sort of some of the things that she was going through, we couldn't fathom that Oprah could do any wrong. No, of course not. Right now, these things come out about the Butler and about other projects that Monique was supposed to be a part of.
Oprah or Tyler.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, oh no, I can't understand that. So, and the thought that crossed my mind was like, surely she's mistaken. But then when you look at how she did have that lady's family on there, and that's pretty low. I'm not gonna lie.
On that was for me, that is low, right? But the sauce on that, and I'm sure it wasn't lost on nobody else, is that they didn't even go to Oprah first. Right. And that person that they went to first, which is who Barbara Walters.
Barbara Walters.
Barbara Walters. Barbara said no. Barbara said, I would not do that. Even if she didn't say those words, she opted not to do that. Like, that right there was the sauce on that with the Oprah thing, because it's like, now I gotta look at you a little crazy. You know what I'm saying? Now I gotta look at you like, what are you really doing? Because you didn't let Barbara Walters show you up. You know what I'm saying?
And let me just say, because I do know a fair bit about Oprah Winfrey, Barbara Walters was one of her people that she looked up to.
Real quick, I gotta go away from the camera because I gotta feed your.
Go right ahead. I got a lot to say, so you take your time.
Nephew. We're gonna call him your dog nephew anyway. I gotta feed him real quick, but I can hear you, and I'll be right back.
Okay, cool. I'll say this. Barbara Walters was one of the people that Oprah looked up to in her career. And she has said this before. There was like this funny story of when she was trying to pronounce something, like when she first started in like a news show, when she was young, she sort of used Barbara Walters as like she wanted to emulate Barbara Walters. And she tells the story, Oprah does, about when she had mispronounced a word on television, and she had to laugh at herself because she recognized that, like, I'm never going to be like anybody else. I'm going to be like me. Now, so it's interesting too when we come to this, because Monique mentioned in her interview that she is from Baltimore, and Oprah Winfrey was on a Baltimore show at the time Monique was coming up, and she looked up to Oprah Winfrey. So it's it's so crazy how many points this story touches, because it's like Barbara Walters was an icon, or right, of Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey was then an icon or something that Monique wanted to emulate. And then when it comes down to it and these things are happening, Barbara Walters was the one to say, I can't do that to you, Monique, after you just won that award and all this. And it's like, wow, right? So it's really interesting to me how, like, listen, here's the point that I'm making with that. Life touches life. And when you act in a way that is not sort of like, I don't want to say loving, but you act in a way that you don't want karma to come back and treat you that way, that's going to have an impact on somebody. And that's also a part of your legacy. We're going to get into this particular point a little bit later, but I just want to touch on it here. It's interesting to me that I haven't heard, and maybe I missed it, but I haven't heard Tyler Perry or Oprah Winfrey come out, especially not recently, and discuss this. And I know they've heard. Because
absolutely
this has gone viral, and I know they heard about it years ago when it first happened.
Like you said, that listen, this stuff has been happening, and it's been said before. But what's going to happen? I feel like it's sticking now, because that whole debacle with Tyler Perry involved in the whole Christian Keys thing, and now he's involved in this as well. We didn't heard the man's voice pretty much admit that he lied on the lady. and hasn't compensated her. And yeah, because of that, she lost money. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really nothing, no value she can really she could put a value on it, but it's like, at the very least, you need to at least come out and admit what you said now that we've heard it. You know what I mean? And then Oprah out here in these streets looking bad because, she's just looking bad. You know what I mean? So it's like,
yeah, there's a number of reasons why she's looking not in the best light, but this is an opportunity, for them to come out and address this. Now let's just jump into that, because I was gonna wait, but we hear everybody. We might as well get into it.
Yeah, but how long? What do you think it would take for them to be like, okay, it's time for me to speak now?
Okay. I don't know that they would ever do that, because the way that the game is played, right? So, like, you gotta think, Oprah and Tyler have made it in a way. Buttercup, please, it's not time for you to speak. Oh, she says, okay. So, Oprah and Tyler Perry have, imagine they came in at separate times, right? And so Oprah came in early, in the 80s, and you find an industry that is the way that it is, and you have to make a decision whether you're gonna do this or that to get where you want to be. And I'm not saying anybody did anything crazy back in the day, but you could kind of tell that they move in a certain way. And I do think that there's sort of like levels to it. And Steve Harvey sort of touched on it in a way when he interviewed Monique. And he interviewed Monique on his show years after the whole incident had taken place. And he said something to the effect of like, I'm not going to let my needs, she said, she basically was making the point that integrity trumps all this other stuff. He's like, basically, there's a way you have to move in Hollywood. There's a couple things you have to do. You have to play nice. And she was like, nothing's over integrity. And he was like, I'm not going to be able to do integrity over this check. Right. Because you're not going to tell me that I'm not going to make money because of my integrity. Right. And it's like, no, you could choose integrity and you can still make money. But I think that there is a level where people make a decision that, like, well, my integrity maybe isn't worth as much as this check is going to be worth. I'm not accusing Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey of that, but because of their lack of response, and because Steve Harvey has said it and they're kind of being grouped all together, I'm imagining that they had to make some sacrifices that were not, pleasant. And
the conversations, I could just imagine if those walls could talk, okay? Because it's probably something far more sinister than we even are on the plane of thinking or whatever. But yeah, the longer they don't say anything, just the worse it looks.
I mean, not really. Here's the real deal. She didn't have a contract with neither of them. She had a contract for that movie with, I think, Lee Daniels. And Lee Daniels came out and apologized. But really, that's the only person who owes her anything. Unfortunately, I feel really bad for her that she went through this. And clearly, she was wronged. But really, it's he say, she say. And they're in a position where they don't have to say anything and they'll be fine.
You know what? I think that you are right. Like, really, like, what are we talking about here? We're talking about what you can legally put something on. And Lee Daniels apologized and made that situation right. And that was the person whose film it was and all of that. And now this situation, you didn't have any contract with these people. Yeah, they, you had these personal situations, but this is kind of like a situation of, you just have to realize those people aren't who you thought they were and just kind of let it go, because you can't go into the court of law. Only reason he will pay her something is because of he feels guilty from whatever backlash she's going to receive. So you're right. They don't have to say anything because, they don't have to. But more Oprah outside of Tyler for this specific situation, she is looking like she's moving like a hater. Like she was doing certain things, maliciously. That's kind of how I'm looking at her situation. And Tyler just probably got caught up in the drama of being Oprah's friend.
Sure, especially the way that Monique paints it. And this is a prime opportunity. This is a prime opportunity for them to come out and say something. I want to say clear their names, but like, if you think about it, Monique is so I won't say beneath, but like on a monetary and power and industry basis, like they could ignore her for the rest of their lives.
I mean, because also look at it from the bigger picture, right? Look at, okay, yeah, we're looking at it from our perspectives because we want to know also on the other side, what is going on in your head? What are you guys thinking about what's going on? But then look at it, zoom out, right? This doesn't even matter. What you guys think doesn't matter. None of that shit matters because, you know, because they have to look at it in the sense of, okay, how could it go? It could go good and we could say something and pay her up and she shuts up, or it could go bad, which means that now we've jumped into the ring and now we have this back and forth going because we engaged. If you don't engage, listen, not engaging is the answer. Like, not engaged. So I get it from that perspective. So we may not ever hear from them. You know what I mean? We may not ever.
And
the moment you engage, you've brought yourself down to, like, not down. I don't want to say that, but like, it's just kind of like, you know, when the fight starts in the ring, whoever's in the ring is getting hit. You feel what I'm saying? They either have to fight back or not, regardless of, you know, whatever happens. So it's like, don't even get in the ring.
This just in, Tyler and Oprah respond. I'm sorry I had to do that, guys. I'm sorry I had to do that, but like literally,
I was like, what?
Literally, I had to put this out there because it's like this is how they could carry it. So I'm not saying that Monique is wrong. Actually, I feel that she's right. And if she's
probably exactly what they're doing too.
If she's calling our community to activate, then I don't know what she expects because,
oh my goodness,
you know, this isn't like some, you know, George Floyd type of situation. It's unfortunate, and I don't like that it happened to her. And I'm so glad that she's speaking out on it, because what they did talk about is Taraji bringing up this conversation, ironically, around the same person, which is Oprah Winfrey, being involved in that project for Color Purple. And they talked about how Taraji is bringing this up, but how Monique brought it up before about the trailers, about the treatment of them, and about just different things. And so now that Taraji is saying it, now Monique sort of took a different spin on it when she talked about it with Shannon Sharpe. She basically was like, she didn't like the idea. She hates that this happened to Taraji, but she didn't like the way she sort of swept it under the rug and like, oh, Lady L took care of it, because she felt like that let Oprah off the hook. And if this is what Oprah is doing, then she needs to be held accountable. The only thing I think that Monique might not understand is that, you know, and listen, and maybe she does understand it, and maybe that's what she's out to change. What I was going to say is, I don't think that it works like that. Now, she's calling some people's names, and this is what she's saying. She's the messenger. She said, why? Because Shannon asked her, why didn't she think that it got the traction when Monique said it as it did when Taraji said it? So these are the reasons that Monique thinks that it happened that way. Because of the messenger. Like, she kept saying how she was a fat Black woman, and how dare she be the one to say this. I think there is some truth to that. I think she said, you're calling people's names, and these people are our heroes, and you can't do that. And I think there's some truth to that, especially within the Black community, because it's like, I think it comes from this idea that we fought so hard to get certain seats at certain tables. So please don't knock those tables. Like, please don't call those people out, because then we might not ever get another seat. I think that's the fear that people have. When I don't think it has to be like that. I think if Tyler and or Oprah would have come out and addressed this, then they could just be done with it, and they could just say what they really feel, whether they're right or wrong, and then everybody can move on.
See, and I agree with that on a sense of like regular people, right? But it's like, once they do that, there's a whole bunch of other things or ways that it could go, and depending on what other things that they're involved in, that might make the decision of whether it just might be better just to not say anything. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like opening up the floodgates. You know what I mean? Like, oh, so you're gonna go rectify this situation, but you're not gonna go rectify this situation. Like, it's
right.
Just, sometimes, like I said, if you zoom out, like, and look at it, they just need to not engage, because they both have been called on to, accused of being involved in other shady behavior, right? So, and this is like the year
Yeah.
Of exposure, they say, because
It
everything's
is.
coming out. So I don't know. Like, you're right. I think that they probably won't respond. And based on how Oprah responded to, what was the man's name that passed recently, that was one of her, well, I guess it was her stylist or something, that Monique
Oh
said she
yeah,
talked
what
to.
is his name? I
Like,
have it here. I just can't remember what it was.
when she said that she wasn't paying, she told him that she wasn't paying her nothing. So it's like that picture that you put up of them is probably what's really happening, because you know it's a bunch of fakeness in Hollywood. Like, I could see that. Like I said, I think the whatever is really going on is going to be far more sinister than we would ever be able to figure out, because it just don't make sense. But you know, I think that it's hard to know what to believe anyway, because I had also had the thought, I told you earlier, that maybe this is just, just it's just a part of the whole storyline thing. And like I said, storyline doesn't have to be made up, but it could just be, you know, what's the best way to give both of us, what we want, right?
Right. But there's no here's the problem that I see with her. Listen, I hope that they do come out, and I hope it is worth it to them to, like, but I'm not really sure, like, what would it be for? Like, what's the gain? Right? It's like they, in the Black community, they're still going to be held in high regard, right? Like, we would have to activate as a community, as I feel that she's actually calling Black people to do, is to say, like, hold them accountable, tell them this and this and that, and here's what I think that would look like. Here's my way that I'm just verbalizing it would look like. It would look like, oh, you can't even get through another interview, or you can't walk down the street, Oprah and Tyler, without somebody saying, hey, what about Monique? Respond to Monique. Like, you can't even promote your next project without somebody saying, hey, what about Monique? And I think that's what she's asking us to do. That is probably goals, but because of the way that this happened, and it's being, it's being brought back to the surface, let's see what happens as far as the media is concerned, because the movie that Oprah just was recently a part of did not do well in the box office.
Hold up though, but I'm sorry, I should have caught you right there. If people started walking up to them and wouldn't let them get past interviews and stuff like that, so they answer her, that is probably considered like inciting. I don't even want to say inciting a riot, but like intimidation. You have all these people harassing these people. Like, that's gonna not be good. Because then look at it flip side. If they were to come out and say, if they were to come out and command their following to be like, listen, whenever you interview her or whatever, just, or when you see her, ask her this or whatever. Like, like I said, once you engage, you're with the shits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't control what happens or how it goes down. So I think that, just in thinking about this and having this discussion, it's probably not going to happen for them to even come out. Like, even if they did decide to do something, which they don't even have anything to settle for. I was going to say they'd do it in court, but it's not.
If she could have sued them, she would have sued them. They are not legally liable to pay her anything now. Now,
so
let's get into the Mean Girl shit.
Blackmail or like extortion, like by playing this recording. Like, what are you trying to? You trying to strong arm him? Like, it's I don't know, man.
Let's get into this part of it, because I want to talk about specifically her allegations.
That's a cute picture, though.
It is. She's a very beautiful woman. I think, her talent and her wit and her timing, it's not a mistake that she's made it in the ways that she's made it. Like, before, I thought it was interesting too, because they talked about this a little bit. Like, she had never been talked about in the industry, like she was difficult to work with, until after this. So obviously those rumors were the thing to get her on the nasty side of this.
And what do you do with that? Somebody talked bad about you and gave a bad reference, and now no job will hire you or whatever. Like, what, as a person in the regular society, like, what would you do? What would you do?
So, I mean, I don't know what I would do. I would do anything that I could. I imagine that's what Monique has been doing. I feel so bad that she has had to go through this, because she didn't do anything wrong. She only acted within her own rights. It kind of reminds me of when LeBron James left Cleveland the first time to go down to Miami, he wanted to win a championship. Okay, that was what was on his mind, and people call him all types of traitor and all that stuff for leaving Cleveland.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
For leaving Ohio, but he ended up coming back and getting a championship for them as well. But I think he needed to go and have the experience of being a champion so that he could see the inner workings of how to get that ring. And then he could come back and teach the other people like, oh no, we got to be on this level, right? Because I think one basketball player said it to the point where it's like one level of playing gets you to the playoffs, and then all that's gone, and then it's another level that wins you that championship. It's like you got to step up your game. So when you say, what would I do if I was blacklisted in this way? I'm grateful that I don't have that experience, but I would imagine that I would just keep trying. And I think that's what Monique has done. And now she's finally getting some more attention put on it, and people are taking her seriously, because like the first layer that she had to fight through probably was the shock and awe of like, no, certainly this isn't happening. I'm an Oscar winner. Like, not only did I have a whole successful sitcom and comedy career, right? Unheard of. Now I've won an Oscar for a drama. So now people know that I can act. And so this certainly would open more doors for me. So I'm thinking like the shock of it all probably was the first layer of her defeat. It's just like, I'm not saying that she's defeated, but I'm just saying that was probably the first thing, is like, no, this can't be happening. And then when she starts to realize like, this must be because somebody said something about me, and she starts to hear like, oh, I heard you're difficult to work with. So then she tries to call around and see what's going on. Now, here's where this man comes. Let me just tell you something. Tyler Perry is, let me get a better picture of him. He is undoubtedly one of our heroes. Like, I remember watching those Tyler Perry plays when he was Medea, and they had such great messages to them. I was so excited. Everything Tyler Perry was just, and it's still, I mean, like, I still support him, not in the same way, like the stuff that he's been doing recently. I can't say that I've been like following all his projects. He's doing so many things. Like, I know that he has that.
Yeah, I know. I gotta catch up on his other shows. Even though Tyler Perry has this standard of acting or level of acting, this is his shows and movies that is like, it could be better. But I, like you, I watched all of the movies, all of the plays and stuff like that, and I still watch a play every now and then just off of like, oh, let me throw this in here. But yeah, like I don't know, Faith. I'm gonna comment after you finish, but I just wanted to say that part.
Well, no, because you really are valid in this. Like, you put me on to him, and I agree. I'm very proud of what he's done. He has a whole production studio, which is unheard of for a Black man to have that in Atlanta on a formerly racist.
Just think of like what greatness could have been created if they would have been like able to work out the whole thing, right? Like, we want to see Monique in movies. She's funny as hell, right? And she can act and stuff like that. She's has more depth than just the comedy. Oprah and him together, like, and her, they could have done a lot of stuff. Like, so I just don't. That's why I'm feeling like this is something personal on Oprah's part.
It's unfortunate. Well, so here's the thing, and we're also, I gotta point out, I'm glad that we're hearing her side, and I believe everything that she's saying, but we're only hearing her side. So, yeah, but this is why it would be awesome if they would come out and say something to us, and it wouldn't be for the gain of them. It would be for the curiosity of,
you know what's gonna happen people right after that. As soon as they go off live or whatever, you gonna get this next video with Sydney and Monique with like 10 inches of ceiling and them at the bottom of the screen talking about, whatever they want to say. I'm telling you, sometimes it's just like, you just, I don't know, man. I see both sides, right? And I see her wanting judgment. I mean, like, wanting like justice, right? Mm-hmm. But it's just the way that she's going about it. And then this whole thing, we haven't gotten to this part yet, but the whole thing with her son. And I said last week, how is she doing this when she's on fucking tour? Like, I was thinking that she was going to break down on stage. So when I saw his post and that said, he said something about, I still love you or whatever. And he was like, not on stage though. And I was like, oh my God, what happened? So I was thinking maybe something happened, like she broke down, but no, she's on stage like being a heathen. And so I was just like, oh my God, okay. This is also a fear that I had. Like, you're gonna say the wrong thing out of this. You're trying to separate the person that you are on stage from the person who you really are. And now you go on stage and you say something egregious. And now what? Like, what are we really doing here? You know what I'm saying? So that's what led me to be like, well, maybe they had an agreement that they would just take this real thing that was happening in their life and just, give the people what they want.
Put it all out there. Now, okay, we're going to get to that because I think that's a whole separate thing. And I think I probably have an unpopular opinion on that. And I can't wait to hear your reaction to that. Let me just say this real quick about this Oprah and Tyler and Monique thing. She has this way of, I won't even say ruffling feathers. Like, the way she was done was wrong. However, there's a couple of things that she did that I don't think she sees what she's doing. So, for instance, she mentioned how, and let me just take up for her before I say anything. She mentioned how she sent this audio of Tyler Perry speaking. Basically, he had this audio of him basically apologizing and saying that he did her wrong. And I heard some of it, but then some of it I didn't care to hear the rest of it, and I'll tell you why after I land this point. But he said in the audio, he admitted he was wrong, and he said he would come out and say it, right? So she has that audio of him saying that. One of the things that Shannon actually went into was like, now why did you record him? Because she asked Shannon, let me take this down. She says, I shared the audio with you, Shannon Sharp. Now look into your camera and say what you heard.
He would not say it.
Now that's because that's putting someone in a bad position.
Yeah, it is.
He didn't say that to me. Huh?
I said, or he didn't actually listen to it.
Well, there's that. I think he probably. Well, yeah,
I think he listened to it. But at first I was thinking, did you listen to it?
Think about that. Think about that. You have a whole platform. You're doing good for yourself, and here comes this person who's been blacklisted in the industry trying to get you to do things. It's like, no, that's not what we do here on my show. I don't listen to.
You know what?
What he did was he said, now why did you record her? Which gave her the opportunity to then explain, which I thought was a great explanation. However, right? However, ... Now let me say this. She then went on to explain how if I hadn't recorded him, then it would be my word against his. And it would have been, oh, did he really say it? Right? Now that she has the recording, she's been floating it around to people and been telling people to basically do what she wanted Shannon Sharp to do, so her and Shannon Sharp do not have a terribly close relationship, obviously, because he's asking her questions for the first time. I don't know if they had ever met before this interview, but several times
in the interview, he probably would still re-ask for the audience, I would think, but go ahead. I have a question for you after this.
Here's what I'm thinking. Several times in the interview, she asked him to look in the camera and talk to Oprah and talk to Shannon Sharp, she asked Shannon Sharp, look in the camera and talk to Tyler, talk to Oprah, tell them such and such and such and such. And she lands the plane with this idea that, like, if I'm your friend, not to him, but she's saying, because she has done this, and she's done this to other people. She called Stephanie Mills, Al Sharpton, Kevin Hart, all of these people. She said to them, call Oprah, call Tyler, tell them that this isn't right, because she had shared this recording with all of them. So Tyler went from saying in the recording that he was apologetic to Stephanie Mills saying, no, she owes me an apology. So then when Shannon Sharp said, what did he owe you? What do you owe him an apology for? She said, I don't know. Right? Okay.
Monique. Wait, what?
She didn't know. So basically,
Stephanie Mills wants an apology too?
No. So here's what happened.
Say that part again.
So Monique has this recording of Tyler Perry saying that he's going to apologize. And I'll say this. I did listen to the beginning of it.
I listened to the whole thing.
He was making jokes like, oh, I need to talk to Medea because Medea speaks more like me.
He was making jokes, but then it got like, he got caught up. He said it.
Okay, now listen to me on this. And I'm not taking up for him because, like I said, I didn't hear the whole thing. I do think that was his voice. But so she goes and she's shopping this recording around. And so something changed from the time that he offered his apology and said he was going to go out and promote it. And at the time she said something about his movie Boo, which was like a Madea Takes on Halloween or something movie. And he was going to go out, and when he promoted that film, he was going to apologize to her publicly, and he was going to work with her again. I don't know what the timing was, but I'll tell you this. If someone were to record me and share it with other people and have people calling my phone, that would be irritating to me. And maybe that's why he asked for an apology. I don't know nothing. I'm not saying because he hasn't come out and addressed it. Something went wrong. But I would imagine
Tyler said he wants an apology.
So here's what happened. I'm sorry, you did say that. Let me go back and say she talked to Al Sharpton. She said Al Sharpton. He said he was going to call Tyler, and then she hadn't heard back from him. Next thing you know, he was somewhere 6 months later talking about he was getting on Tyler Perry's private jet. And then Stephanie Mills, the same thing. She said Stephanie Mills. She talked to Stephanie Mills and said, call Tyler and tell him that he owes me an apology. And da 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 da. Stephanie Mills said, call Monique back because apparently she's a real one, and I do know that about Stephanie Mills. She doesn't want to. He said this was the message that Stephanie Mills gave back to Monique, and she said he doesn't want to revisit this. Then he called her back. He called Stephanie Mills back while she was on the phone with Monique, and he said to her, Stephanie, tell Monique that she needs to apologize to me. And I want to meet her without her husband, right? And I need her to apologize publicly and say that I and Oprah did nothing to harm their family. So that's a difference between what he said in the video or in the audio and what he's now saying. And so it's like when Shannon Sharp said, "Well, what would he want an apology for?" No.
Okay, so that is so reminiscent of the other story situation of people being invited to a room and by themselves, and they only got their story right. With this guy. But it's like the conversation that they played with, at first her husband was talking to him, and her husband is a fucking talker. Like he just likes to hear himself talk. But anyway, he started out and then she got on the phone with him, but he basically wanted to talk to her without the husband because
why do you think?
Because it would have been her word against his, I guess. I mean, because that doesn't even make sense. Why would you want somebody to be without their support system? Like, you're married.
Right, that doesn't make sense. Let's hold on to that thought. Hold that thought for a second. Let me talk about Tyler for 1 second. I mean, I'm not saying he's the most reasonable man in America. I don't know this guy. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know what Christian Keys was saying. I don't know if he ever came out and said it was Tyler. I know there was a
little. He didn't. He didn't.
I do know that several people came out since then and was like, Tyler pays good and da 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 da. I can only take him for what I've seen, and because nobody has named him other than Monique in this, there's nothing tied to him saying that he's a bad person, right? I would imagine, and I'm going to bring this picture up to just go with my point here. I think he just don't like her ass. I think that sometimes you get in a situation with somebody and you don't like them, and there's no real reason why, but you just don't like their ass. And that's that. And there's no explanation. So there's no apology. And maybe he was over here behind her back talking shit to other people who probably didn't like her either. Because she already said, that when she was in the 12th grade, people never liked her. Yeah. Because she's going to tell it. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but I also think there's consequences and repercussions to things. I bring up this picture because I look at his eyes right here.
I don't think it's a bad thing either. You are so shout out to you for the picture because that is funny. I don't think that you know what, I think that's actually a good angle to think about this thing because I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, because like you don't necessarily like everybody you work with. You know what I'm saying? And then
I'll say this.
Listen, you don't like everybody you work with. And she does have the type of personality that if you are in the same room with her, you can't be in there and just be chilling and not talking to her. If you got a problem with her, she's going to you know, whether how sweet it is. Hey, my sweet baby, you got a problem with me because I saw you looking over here and like. So I could see that. I could see that.
I'm just putting two and two together from my perspective, and I really do want them to be held accountable. I really do want them to come out and speak to us, even if it's like bad, even if they're like, there was no reason, we spread rumors.
Let's explore that though, because this is the thought that I'm thinking, right? I'm just trying to look at it in different, from different perspectives, right? If somebody lied on you, right? We're gonna use us as an example. If somebody lied on you, and everybody around you knew was there for the lie, but we weren't like, you know, stopping the person from telling the lie, right? I could see like it is. I mean, it is like a strong arm tactic to be like, well, if you can leverage your friendship or your relationship to be like, if you don't talk to this person, I'm not talking to you, and the person wants to save the relationship, so they're trying to hold the other person accountable. We can't hold other people accountable, no matter how people think that we are. Like I can start, well, I have an accountability group, but that doesn't mean that I'm doing the work for people. Like they still have to hold themselves accountable. You know what I'm saying? So only you can hold yourself accountable. So, you know, that's going to be a problem. Like, because like I said, if you take yourself and somebody lied on you, like, are you really going to go around to all the people that were there and make them like what? I mean, you might say James might be short. He's going to have to do it. But, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
I do know what you're saying. And I wouldn't do that.
What do you do? Like,
I wouldn't do that. I would just have to move along. And I'm not saying that she shouldn't move along, right? I'm not saying that this is what she should do. This is not my advice to her. I'm telling you what I would do, right? If I were in a situation where somebody was talking bad about me and they spread lies, now I don't trust them. Now, sure, I want an apology. Yeah, I've made that clear. But at some point, you just got to move along. And because there weren't any contracts in place and they really didn't owe her anything, they could talk bad about her all they want. Now, I'm putting two and two together as far as the facts are concerned because Monique was not able to give an answer when Shannon asked her, why do you think that he wanted an apology? I'm just going to jump out there with the facts that were presented and say, I have an idea. You are fucking annoying. You recorded me without my permission, and now you're calling all my friends, trying to hold me accountable. You know what those conversations sound like? I'm just being real here, and I love Monique, and I love her as a performer, and I think she's. But you know what those conversations sound like? Hey, Steve, what's up? Oh, what's up? Yeah. Oh, you talked to Monique? Oh, she said that? Dude, let me tell you about her. She's annoying. Yeah, she played a recording for you. How about I did not know she was recording me, and I was trying to be nice to her, but I don't like her, and I do think she's difficult to work with, and that's my truth. And I don't need you to call me back. Let's just move past this. This is not even your business. I don't even know how you got involved in this. When was the last time someone asked you to call me on their behalf? Yeah, dog. I'll see you on Thursday on set. Right? Stephanie Mills called.
Yeah, I just thought I would pause real quick because I want to hear Stephanie Mills, and that shit was perfect. I just thought about that in terms of a sitcom. That is exactly what happens. Like people, they all have that person who tries to do stuff like that and do like a little usurp or intervention or whatever, and that person gets shut out.
And the thing is, it kind of lines up. Now, this is all speculation. I want to be very clear here. I want to be very clear that I do feel that she was wronged. Mm-hmm. But with the missing information and with the idea that I don't think they're going to come out and say anything, because it doesn't make you look good, Tyler Perry, if that's the truth. But if you come out and say it, at least we would have some closure and understanding, and at least she could then go and move on.
But then I think he did mention this on that call about how, you know, things go in cycles and eventually this shit will go away. But he wasn't saying it about this, but like this pretty much is probably what they're waiting on is for it to run its course. Because there's only so much you can do. Now, her trump card was that recording because, you know, typically when a person hears themselves on a recording saying some shit that they didn't want everybody to hear, then they jump into action. He didn't jump into action. That window has passed. So it's like it kind of flopped. You know what I'm saying?
The fact that he then requested an apology from her through their mutual friend, Stephanie Mills, lets me know there's missing information because what is he requesting an apology for? I'm pretty sure Stephanie Mills, being a real one, and me being able to vouch for that somehow, like she was actually around when we were younger. Your father is a very big fan of her, and I've always enjoyed her. I do know that she's a real one. I know she has a son that has suffered some disabilities, but she's always loved him, and she's always, every time I see her with him, they're laughing. And Stephanie Mills is a real one, and I can vouch for that. Even though I've never met her, I do know Stephanie Mills is a real one. I would imagine
said that she was too.
I would imagine that because that's the only person that actually came back to her. So she said Al Sharpton, okay, Kevin Hart, Stephanie Mills, and I'm sure others. And then she tried to get Shannon into the mix. But you see Shannon's reaction real time. It's like, look, man, like nobody's really trying to get into that drama. I understand this happened to you. It's very unfortunate.
The perfect scenario is what you just said. Like in a work setting, this person's running around trying to get all of us to say something or whatever, and they're putting their own things at risk if they do that, right? Their own relationships at risk. So, no, you're right. Nobody's going to be doing that.
Ma'am, sir, have several seats. This is what I said to myself, because it's just like, okay, I'm sure and I'm sure that, and I know this was wrong. And I know she said that she lost out on millions of dollars, which I think she did. And I do think that it was damaging. I hope they do come to some sort of agreement, even if it's not a settlement, because I do know these things can get weird. And when you give money to someone, you're sort of admitting wrong legally. I'm just saying that. I'm not a lawyer or anything, but like basically a settlement is an admission of, it's not an admission of guilt.
Assumption. It is like an assumption. I mean,
it's like, okay,
not an admission, but it does like give the public an assumption of guilt. You know what I'm saying?
But if he's requesting an apology and that made it back to you, but his reasoning for it didn't make it back to you, I find that odd. I think she does maybe know. And if she doesn't, maybe she could do some deductive reasoning and figure out that he's not with it.
I'll say this. I think that we only know what we know. We're not there to get the full context of everything, to hear everything that's said, because a lot of things can be done in like little small things, like somebody's tone or something else that happened or what they did, like little microaggressions, right? But I think the solution here is to, stop trying to call everybody else to do it and but I mean, it would totally be up to Tyler and Oprah. But like you said, if they don't like each other, they're not friends. But the solution here will be for her to try to get negotiate newer deals for newer things that are coming out. Like try to move past this, and these people have access to this. You've put that out or whatever. How can we move forward and you work now? Now that everybody knows, maybe the deals going forward can be differently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't really know, like you said, what she would get from the past, because they weren't contractually, promising her anything. So
she did technically, if we're being fair here legally, right?
Well, if she was able to, I feel you.
If she was able to sue them, she would have done that already. So I don't think that she's going to get any money from them as far as old money. Like, I'm going to give you some of what's in my bank account. Now, they could make new money together if those relationships are mended. But what's the get? Like, there's no like common ground. It doesn't seem like, because it's not like they're going to want to clear their name to whom, right? And so I want to get we're going to move on a little bit here, and we're going to kind of revisit some things, but at the almost 50-minute mark of this interview, she gives Shannon her interpretation of why she thinks Tyler doesn't want her husband there, right? Because that was his thing. He said he wanted an apology out of her, and that so Tyler Perry now has flipped the script. So like, you got this recording of him saying that he owes Monique an apology, but now Stephanie Mills is telling Monique that no, in fact, Tyler Perry says you owe him an apology, him and Oprah. Right? So what has changed then, right? And on top of that, he demands that he wants to meet with Monique without her husband there. So then Monique kind of goes into this story of how she went into his trailer at some point into Tyler Perry's dressing room, and he did the whole like clap on, clap off thing, and his staff running around. I don't really know the significance of why she told that story. I guess to show that like he's powerful and his people are treated like, servants or something. I don't know what that was, but why do you think that why do you think that he would request for her husband not to be there when they met?
Because like, if you are going to say something out of the way as a man, like, let's just be real. Some men, when there's not another man around, They say whatever they want to say. They're not worried about fighting you, like your word against theirs. They, they're intimidated by the other man's presence. So sometimes having another man in the room, it keeps things level. Because clearly, like, what is his reason? If that's her manager and that's her husband, what's your reason for not wanting him there? That don't even make sense to me.
So again, this is why if you could just call Tyler and just get him on the phone, that would be helpful, because I don't understand it either, and it doesn't make any sense to me, but I can deduce from what I've learned about Sydney, I don't know how to say this in a way that's not going to be offensive to some people.
Maybe her husband is hard to work with, and that's why she got that rap.
And also, some people are just annoying, and like, he gives me that vibe. I'm not gonna lie. Like, there's not been a time where I've seen him say something and I didn't cringe a little bit. I'm not trying to shit on him. I think he's a nice man. I think he's very well spoken. I think he's attractive. I'm not attracted to him, but listen. But let me just bring this up. There's something about this. I didn't even recognize his face in this picture, but this is exactly what I'm talking about. I don't want you sitting on my couch. Get out of here, man. Like, I don't know what it is about him, and he seems very kind, and he seems like very well spoken and put together, and some of the things that he says are very wise, and he seems like such a nice person, and he seems like he's someone who holds her accountable, but is kind, and that's all great, everybody. But something about him, especially when we get into the whole Shalon business, something about him is just a little bit not cool. Like, he's uncool, right? I can't put my finger on it. I'm not accusing him of anything. And she describes their relationship, and I'm so happy for her. And I love that they're working together.
Because she's cool with him. Like, we don't really know this guy. She knows this guy, but we're cool with him because she's cool with him. Like, yeah. That's Mo's husband. Okay, we like, all right, fine, whatever, right? But it is something that I could put my finger on about him. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. And I'm not calling him any names or anything like that.
Let me say it like this.
He's an attractive man. He is.
You can have this thought, right? But I'm saying what I'm saying, right? I'm saying there is something about him that I can't put my finger on that kind of makes him seem like we don't know why you're here for real, right? Mm-hmm. Now, it's not saying that he's done anything specific, but it's just, it's just something I can't put my finger on that just makes it seem like one day she could wake up and be like, I can't believe I was even in that like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I don't know. I don't want to put nothing bad out about the man because I don't know that anything.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't think that he's with her for the same reason that she's with him. I feel like he lets her. No, I don't like to say that. I feel like a man wouldn't really want his wife to be going around here doing some of the things that she's doing in regards to him, or saying some of the things she's saying in regards
to him.
What?
We're here. Say it. This is a safe space.
Like the whole daddy thing. Like, I can see it being said in jest, but like all the time that she says it, it's like, okay. I don't know. I just feel like at some point some men will be like, listen, we got to stop with the daddy thing. All right. I don't know. Maybe I'm not a man, so I don't know. But it's cringy to hear over and over. But like I said, I'm not knocking their relationship or him. We're just specifically talking about just the vibes that people give. That's all.
Sure.
And I don't know, dude. I'm just going off of what I see on TV. But I know I liked Monique from when she, from the moment she came out or whatever. I don't really know if I had any thoughts about her last husband or whatever. But I definitely, when I met this one, I was just like, okay, well, if you say he cool, he cool. He had the cookout.
Exactly. And I want to be clear about this.
But the minute he fucks up.
Right. It's going to be like, I know something wrong with you. Listen, I want to be clear about that too, because I think, these sorts of things can get misconstrued, especially when there's so many things that are happening right now with her that are good and some that are not so good. But one of the things I want us to be honest about is that, you know, she came on the show and she talked about their love and the love she has, but I think she also made some assumptions, right? And I think it's important for us, like she said, to deal in the truth, because right, like otherwise we're dealing in something else. And like I said, I'm not trying to go on some public whatever about him. I don't know that man. I think he's a nice man. He actually had said some things to her that I thought were profound when she re-spoke them. My thing is, I think it's important for us to be honest about, like, even the vibe that things are giving, and because maybe it would give some some information or some intel as to why people don't want to meet with him. Like, I'm not speaking for Tyler here. I actually think that Tyler and Oprah should come out and address this. Like, it's not going to cost, I don't know, it might cost you something, but
because you don't know what's at stake for them. So
for sure. And they
I
have
don't
a
think
lot
they'll
to lose.
respond. I don't think they'll respond.
I like the fact that this man, Sydney, she said he loved her when she was at her lowest. He loved her like she was at her best. I loved that for her, because I imagine there were some dark years. There's things you go through in life that are just dark. And it's like, for somebody to just be there is great. But then for them to love you through it, it's just amazing. And so I do give him his props there. And she talked about, like, knowing her place and all that stuff. And those can be tricky words, because everybody has to have their own relationship and understanding. And then she goes into this thing about putting him in a bottle and people having a sip. And this is where I have to draw the line. This is where I have to draw the line.
Food in my mouth, but I did not want to sip, Monique. No, thank you.
We do not want a sip of that man juice. We do not. And the person that you're describing, like, I appreciate that you want to share, but it's like all this backwash and nastiness. Nobody wants that. Also, I'm glad that he's the man for you, but there's some things here that we don't do, like, and I'm not mad that you're doing it. It's great for you. And I want her to be happy. I'm so glad that she found him, because I can only imagine all the things that she's gone through while she was, like, going through the situation, right? It's just like, she already had a rough coming up with her, family, and having that whole molestation situation, and then kind of getting to the spotlight. And she talked about being an oversight, like a larger Black woman, and how that had, an effect on her. I think that it's an assumption to think that we want what you have. I think that God works in great ways, and I'm glad you have what you need, but there's a possibility here that people don't that people are finding things weird. Like, even, I don't want to bring her son into this because it's a whole separate situation, but, like, I just want to make the point that, like, I think it's weird that she calls him daddy. I think it's weird, some of the things in their relationship that even I see online. It doesn't bother me. Like, I don't care if you have it your way, you know what I'm saying? But we don't necessarily want it that way, and it does come off odd. So if she's wondering why people don't maybe want him around, it could be, right? Because my experience with him, which I haven't had one in person, but it's just like, I wouldn't really, if I invited her out for cocktails, I wouldn't necessarily care if he were there, but if I had a choice, maybe I wouldn't invite him. Right? Like, I'm not saying that he's a bad person, but I'm just being really honest. And I'm not saying it's that he's a bad person. I think he's a great person for her, because she feels full. She has everything that she needs out of him. But I'm just being so totally honest that, like, maybe I wouldn't invite him to my Christmas party. Maybe I wouldn't. And maybe I would love to see her. I'm not gonna say maybe. I would love for her to come. You see what I'm saying? I would be like, yo, Monique's gonna be here. We're gonna have a great time. Maybe I wouldn't invite him. And it's not to say he's a bad person. It's just that maybe I don't really like him or like that. And maybe that's what other people experience as well. I don't know. I wasn't there. True. I just think it's a good point. I think it's a fair point.
That's true. That does happen. You know what I'm saying? We've had situations, I know you have to, where it's like, okay, we're gonna have game night, but we like Kate, but her husband sucks. Or whatever, vice versa, right? Like, oh, we don't want I really wish we could invite such and such, but his wife's a lush, or whatever, right? Okay. I get that. And it's like looking at this in the situation of these are just like really coworkers and like associates and peers. Like, there's a chance that you might be right. Like, this is so it's like for him, he does. I don't know. I don't want to compare.
I know you hate to do it.
But it's something about him that when he's around, like she just acts a certain way, and it's just like, you know, I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know, because I don't want to say anything bad. I'm not trying to say anything bad about the husband or whatever. I'm just saying, girl, you cannot see how you be acting.
Right. And that's really the point that I want to drive home. It is not that we don't love her being in love. And it's not that I dislike him, because I don't even know him.
I'm not looking for a man like hers either. So
I don't even know him, right? I'm just saying that from what I've seen him represented as, like, I'm just going to be completely honest in case it's helpful to the court, right? It's like, hey, listen, Monique, you're always invited to the cookout. When I look at him, I'm not saying that. And it's not that he's a bad person or whatever. I don't know him, but
you get on everybody's nerves.
But I'm just saying that, like, it's a real reaction from a real human being who sees y'all's lives. I love that he helps you out with your business, and I love that y'all are growing together, and I love that y'all have a great dynamic, and I love that he's giving you what you need, because I want you to be whole as the person who I love, right? But I didn't sign up to love him, and I'm not saying that I don't have love for him, but he's I'm just saying, like, I don't even know how to say it. I don't disagree with them working. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say I think it's too close for comfort for him to be her manager, to be honest. I think they that probably should have been separated, because, like, how do you separate that? Like, I think that probably would. I don't know. This ain't my relationship, but
this ain't my relationship neither.
I just don't think that I would do that.
Also, it's going to be completely honest, and then we're going to go into the next point. But, like, the daddy thing is weird, right? Like, we're not being weird when we say that, and we're not the only people who think that either. The daddy thing is weird. It's one thing when you talk to people in the bedroom or you're whispering things, it's like whatever. But, like, if you're having real conversations with other adults and you're calling your husband daddy on a regular basis, it means something weird. It's weird. Okay, I'm just going to be real.
It was just every now and then, but it was like when the Breakfast Club apologized, Charlamagne was trying to get Envy to say, "I'm sorry, Daddy," right? Or apologize, Daddy, or whatever. If she wouldn't have said it so much, that wouldn't even have been an option. But listen, she likes it. I love it, but I don't know. I don't know.
Also, Shannon Sharpe had brought some. I don't even know if I want to touch that. Yeah, I don't want to go into any more of their relationship. I just think that, I mean, I had to say it. I'm not gonna brush over that. This is the honesty that we give. He's weird, and so that could have something to do with why Tyler Perry wanted to meet with her separately. And I'm not just saying,
but zoom out. If you think about it, if somebody wanted to meet you and they specifically said without your husband, wouldn't you automatically be like, why? Why not? I'm bringing my husband. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I would want the answer.
Yeah.
And I'm sure someone has said the answer to her.
Yeah.
Because I think it's weird that you call him daddy. And I think you act differently when you're around him. And I don't like it. And it's weird. And I don't want to be a part of it. And so I'd love to meet with you about business if you want to bring your lawyer.
Yeah, you got your HR voice on, like.
I'm just being real. Like, if you want to bring your lawyer to this meeting, or you want to bring your agent, or you want to bring, someone else, or to be acting on your behalf, or if you would like to record me with my permission this time, certainly welcome to do that. But I don't want him there, because when y'all get together, it's weird for me. Okay, that's what I would say. But I'm not Tyler Perry, and I don't know that for sure. And Tyler, I would love you to come up and back me up on this, but I don't know.
He's in the chat. It's like, no.
He's in the chat. Oh wait,
no, but like,
no, what did you have to say? Oh, just laughing.
No, like, I'm for real. I feel you on that. I think that.
Let's go to the bank, Tyler.
Oh my God! Like, I didn't think about it like that. You know what I'm saying? Listen. It's like, yeah. dude is a situation. He's a whole situation. So he's a talker. But it is kind of weird for you to ask me not to bring my spouse, but then I would want to know why. But then I would probably be looking at you. It depends on the reason why, though. Um, but I don't know. This whole thing is sorry. This whole thing is just crazy. Because she had the interview less than 2 weeks ago, and then she says, "Watch what happens," or something like "watch" or whatever. And then this whole thing where her son comes out, and then her response to that is, let's let it play out. So it was wild to see how it was going to play out, because I'm like, okay, he responded, but like, you went on stage and said some craziness
About who?
her. She said she went on stage about her son.
Okay, let's get into.
I'm sorry, I keep skipping the subject.
No, it's okay. We're gonna end on the good stuff, because I want to talk about how she went to Hollywood and got that show, and within 90 days, and she got the syndication. And even though she's a fat black, she got it.
Yeah, I wanted her to stop saying that.
I really did. We're gonna talk about that, but okay, let's talk about what you were just talking about, which is her son and the drama that has come out surrounding Shalom. Is his name Shalom or Shalom? Okay.
I don't know.
I'm going to put this on mute because we're not even going to worry about this, but I'm going to just play this in the background while we're talking about this. So there's a couple of things. So like, this was not even part of the interview, guys, if you saw the interview, but this was something where Monique had mentioned him in the interview, not by name, but she
but she has talked about him before too.
In this live that he did on TikTok, he basically stated why he was doing it on TikTok, and he just said you could call it a form of therapy. He said that they mentioned he was mentioned in the interview, and they talked about them having 3 sons, but they didn't mention that he's the 4th son. And he actually did 2 of these that I know of. This was the first one where he came out. And originally, I'm not going to lie. Okay, this is where we get to the unpopular piece. Originally, I was like, this ain't the time, right? Like, just air your grievances. Like, why don't y'all call each other and talk about this behind the scenes? Because I did feel like, and I still do feel like these are 2 separate situations. Oh, okay, so we're going to get into that because I don't know if they're 2 separate situations now. But, I thought I had put it on there. My bad, y'all. I felt originally like, why now, man? And he said that in his video. Why now? He said, consider it a form of therapy, but he also mentioned that he was brought up. He wasn't brought up by name, but I guess people who know him in his life know who his mom is. And so it's like a bit of a slap in the face to be kind of brought up in conversation publicly, and then you're kind of like being spoken about in this viral way, but it's very sort of dismissive because you didn't have the opportunity to speak up on your behalf. So this is him saying what he needed to say. That's why he said he called it a form of therapy. That's my take on it. So, okay, let's get your reaction to like this initial coming out and what you thought.
I was like, oh my God, because last week I said, how is she going on tour with all of this stuff going on? You know what I'm saying? And then he responds, then they respond. The husband puts out some text, and that's where I really, that's really what I don't like about Sydney, is that I don't think that he looks at her older son as like with all the kids. You feel what I'm saying? I feel like he played the role of his nephew, or his uncle this whole time or whatever in his life, and now he's married to his mother. But it's like I feel like he judges him. I feel like, that's what the vibe that I get from him, because those texts that he has sent back was like, he was, the way that he responded, he just was just like, let's remember to steal my son, is what I'm saying. Like, I can say this stuff and I can tell you what's going on, but you cannot do this, right? Yeah. But I don't know. That's just me. But he responded. Then he came back and responded again. And then he did another live and then responded again. So he had 3 total. They're all
I only saw 2.
Yeah, they're all pinned at the top of his thing. Now, I do like how well spoken he is, but that's no like secret. Of course, she says she sacrificed the emotional part and she made sure that he had everything that he needed, right? But now he's older with a kid and everything. You know, I just feel like it's a as a mother, I would not want to it's like, okay, when I especially in her situation, she had her son at a young age. She became, successful, and she was living the life. She was chasing the bag, right? Knowing that you were sacrificing certain things, right? And so now when you get to the point that you did all that and you sacrificed those things, and now it's time for you to do it again with these other kids, like nurture these other kids, and for you not to want to be like, okay, let me make sure I try to go back and pay some attention to this situation because back then I couldn't. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of mind frame I would have thought that she would have been on. I was thinking in the sense of she might have broke down on stage, but then when I saw what she actually said, I was just like, okay, she is all the way out the window. You know what I'm saying? But that's when I start thinking maybe they're working together. She's used to being dogged out in the media right now. He's a comedian, and he did another live last night. He was on TikTok live last night. He just had a little conversation going. Like I said, he's well spoken or whatever. So I mean, because they say exposure is exposure. In that industry, they believe that all press is good press.
Yeah.
But maybe that is. He already knows he's smart. He probably knows what's gonna happen, and this is the way that I can help you get money too, without having to give you my money. Let me teach you how to do this. I don't know. I just feel like at this point in 2024, I question all of these things. I mean,
oh, for sure,
I can't help it, but I think it's unfortunate they're having this conversation in front of everybody because people aren't always able to think critically and look at it from both angles. And the people are just taking sides and talking about what a bad mother she is, or how entitled he is, or whatever they're saying, or whatever. But I see it from both points. They both had a perspective back then, right? And so obviously it would be different for both of them. She trying to go do this, and he's probably wanting the comfort of his mother or whatever. But I feel like at the end of the day, how you handle it now matters, and that's where I was disappointed yesterday when I saw that she went on the stage and tried to put the shit in a joke, because I don't think there was no old lady.
Yeah.
I think that joke was so similar to the one that she said about the person talking about her mother walking through the airport. And I feel like she just used that as an opportunity because she knew people were gonna be recording this and going wild. Right? Why would you want your child here? Like I might play with my son, I might joke with my son or whatever, but it's just certain things I would just never say to him, even if I was playing. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it.
I would never, do that. That's kind of crazy because it's still like something that he had to hear. No matter, if she called him after and was like, I love you, but did you see that? Yeah, I just had to do that for the show. I would have to look at her some type of way. So I don't know.
I would hope, especially him being a comedian, my underlying desire and hope and dream is that they are working together on this. That would be the best thing, because in the back of my mind, I'm like, they're going to squash this at some point, right? We might not, hopefully we won't see it, or maybe we will. Maybe they'll draw this whole thing out and be on Iyanla and, do a whole reality show or something, and that would be great for everybody. It'll be the major comeback or something like that. I'm here for it. I would support it all. If it's not real, it sucks that it's playing out like this.
Yeah.
I have to go both sides here, because on the one side, I originally, before I heard what he had to say, right, when I first heard that, and I saw the clip, but I wasn't listening to it. I was like, why now? Like, I've never seen your face before. Like, just let her have this moment, because she's fighting for a bigger cause than you guys, right? Like, just let her do this so that she could get the truth out there and enough people could recognize that she's been wronged to actually pull for some receipts, and like, let your stuff just wait in a couple months. Like, if y'all been going
wild though, because he's already missing her attention and her emotion. So like, it's like, just wait a little bit longer,
Oh yeah, well, this was before I heard what he had to say. So let's take that with a grain of salt, because I was like, before I heard what he had to say, I knew that he was of a certain age. I knew he was over 30, and I knew that he was coming out in an untimely fashion, right? And I'm like, dang, she went through this for 10 years, and or more than 10 years, and today you have some shit to say, and like you couldn't call me and say that you could have. Now I do know now, after hearing what he had to say, that he had some very valid points, and I understand now why he came out to just give, because it's another breathing, thinking, feeling human being, and he has to go to the Starbucks, in the car wash, in this grocery store, and he has to be able to be accountable for himself. So I get it. Also, I understand that okay, here's the other thing that I didn't want to say. Okay, well, no, let me say one thing that I didn't want to say, and then I'll say the worst thing. So the first thing that I wouldn't want to say was like, oh, well, he's a grown man, so whatever happens to you after you've been raised and cared for, like, you got to figure that out on your own. Even if I did you wrong, like, you're 33 now, so you got to figure that out. Sorry, buddy. Go out there and be somebody. And that was the first initial unpopular opinion, is that, like, it's unfortunate, but some people don't even have that. Like, some people don't have their parents at all. Some people don't have access to stuff. Or what if she just wasn't even, like, what if she never did that and he came, like, where were you last week? But I get it that, he was responding because he was mentioned. So there was that one part of me that was like, but you're grown, but you don't have a platform, but we don't even know who you are. But then that's kind of slashed by the fact that, like, okay, well, she did come out and very publicly mention you after knowing that you didn't have any recent, communication. So she should have been expecting, right? This is to be expected. The other part of me felt like, okay, so overall, I feel like, yeah, they need to be handling this behind closed doors. But at the same time, maybe it's beneficial for them both. And I hope to goodness that is what it is. Now, when it comes to her being on stage and saying that about him, I get what you're saying about, like, some things I just wouldn't say. But but then that's when this is the other unpopular opinion on the other side. Because you thinking like that, okay, I'm thinking like the way I'm thinking because my mama raised me. So I would never say this. I've not always been on good terms with my mother. I've not always been on good terms with my father. Yet I've never found myself in this position. Granted, neither of them have been on Club Shay Shay, but I still don't see myself, like, I wouldn't badmouth her to my family.
Your father went on Club Shay Shay.
I wouldn't say nothing. I'm saying that now because it hasn't happened. But if he came out and said some things, I would just be like, yo, you're wilding. And I would tell him about himself face to face or phone to phone. Like, what are you even doing? Oh, we would have a long, very long conversation. But I don't see myself going and doing that because there is a level of honor and regard that I hold our parents with that just supersedes every other relationship. That's like, I just can't see myself doing that. But in the same regard, I can't see myself, and this is not even my son, but I could never see myself saying that about Earl. Never. I would rather fall off the stage. Like, I literally would rather fall off the stage. Nothing is funny about that.
The crazy thing, though, is how he reacted, right? And I think he has some emotional intelligence. I liked his response. He's going with it, you know what I'm saying? And he knows his mother has separated the two characters, Monique with the apostrophe in the middle of the name, and then there's Monique who's the mom or whatever. Now, I just think that if you are well enough to know, or you've matured enough to know how to provide the type of mothering that you're providing for your current kids, your most recent kids, then you should have developed something to be like, how can I better this relationship today with this mindset, right? So I just don't. That's why she lost me on the stage.
There was a couple of things that stood out to me that I'm not sure really penetrated with her experiences. Now, this is why this shouldn't be public, people, because you're exposing yourself to our interpretation and stuff like that. And let me just say, before I even say this, that I wish them both the best. I hope that we don't see this anymore unless they want it to be out there and they can benefit from it, like, in a monetary way or something, like I would welcome that and I would support them. But I really want to see them handle this behind closed doors. But two things that stuck out to me that I could not unsee were, number one, the overall him just wanting her to acknowledge and be accountable for what she had done. Is the same thing that she's actually asking for from Tyler Perry and Oprah. And I could not, once I realized that, I was like, right? Because it's just like, you just want to say F them, right? And she said that to them, but then she also saying that to her son. But actually, he doesn't want anything from you other than the attention and focus that you're asking for from someone else. On top of the fact that she spoke about her dad, and she said about her dad that he was a bullshitter, but she loved him. And he was a bullshitter, but I believed what he said until I couldn't anymore. And until it didn't make sense. And the idea that I couldn't unsee it. And I hate to expose this way, because these are two separate situations. I'm so on board with her and on the, on the bus. I'm so on the bus like Rosa Parks with her on this equal pay thing for Black women.
Yeah.
And that's a separate situation than this, except there's some overlap I cannot unsee. But I do stand with her on that. However, it's so ironic that the thing that you're asking for is the same thing that's being requested of you. And let me just break this down a little bit, because when I saw this part, I said, damn. She said her father's treatment of her, he was a bullshitter, and she had a grandma named Minnie. And she said, her grandmother said, okay, so here's the story. She asked her dad to co-sign a car for her, and the dad was basically like, you're not gonna fuck up my credit or whatever he said to her that was really rude. And then he went and bought a whole car and put it in his name for her sister. And the grandma said every parent knows their weakest link and they know who's going to be okay. And she's glad that he didn't help her, because it's what's made her a person with the backbone today that's not willing to, stand down for nobody and such and such and such and such. So I hope that's not the case here, but I want her to see that, this is the thing that you wanted from your dad. You wanted the respect, the recognition, the understanding. You wanted him to explain to you. You wanted him to make it make sense. And you're not doing that as far as we can tell now. I don't know their situation. I don't know. I hope they texting in on the phone tonight. But for you to go out to your audience and deliver that message, like, we're going to have to, you have to be held accountable for that too now. I also thought the joke was funny. Okay? I'm not going to lie. Also thought the joke was funny. And I know that it was based off of an 80-year-old woman, whatever. Like, I know that she's also an entertainer, but I also don't know how she would have addressed it without making a joke about it. And I think, to his point, she's, her priorities are clear to everyone. She's getting the bag and she's going to entertain. And I think she thinks that as long as I'm getting money and I'm making it, then I can support everybody and everybody will be fine. I think that's what I gather. Only that's not what's being requested of you. Just the way that you're asking them to come to the carpet and give you an apology and it's not even just about the money. I think she would actually be okay with just the apology and maybe some opportunity to make more money together. But it's the same damn thing. So it's like really messed up, right? Because I'm seeing these connections, but this is why, this is America. This is why you have to raise your kids to make sure that they don't do no shit like this, because y'all could have had these conversations behind closed doors and you could have been revealed to this behind closed doors. But now that everything's out there.
But she was the one that did it though. So it's like, how do you, whatever. She's trying to live out loud. You know what I'm saying? I agree with what you said though. Like, you had some valid points. And I'm looking at the situation separately. Obviously, I'm with her on the equal pay thing. And I was with her all the way up until you're right. She did have to say, I guess she did have to she couldn't go and not have something to say about something that's happening currently. So I get that. I think that it was just in poor taste how she chose to do it, because everybody knows that, everybody should know at this point, you should watch what you say. Words are spells. And who would say something like that to their child? I don't know. But, I hope that they do work it out, because I don't want to have to pick sides, like as a viewer. But I also realized too that this is temporary. This is a fight that they're having. This is a disagreement that they're having, and they're still related. So, I'm not judging her too hard on it. The only thing I'm really judging her hard on is the fact that she chose to say the words she said. She could have said anything in that joke, right? Because she wrote the joke. But whatever.
Yeah, sometimes though she just be saying whatever's on the
that
stage.
was really taking it too far.
It took it too far. But
she said that joke with her throat. But I love the way
she really meant it.
I love the way that he handled it, which, I mean, some people do feel like that about their parents and offspring. Like, some people do feel like that. Some people do feel
I think she was angry, and I think she just reacted, and she probably regret it later. Or maybe not. I don't really, I don't know her personally, but I think that she said the joke and she was trying to be entertaining, but she's also said other things about other people like that. She told them, Tyler and Oprah, to suck her dick or something like that. So I think it's a part of the
but they're not something she pushed out of her own body. Like
that's even worse though.
Yeah, that's
right? It's like, I really am mad with you. So everybody can get it.
I mean, yeah. I think that like I said, she just needs to, I don't know, she just needs to do anything. Okay, I'm just a spectator or watcher or whatever, but I would, like I said, I want to leave the thing with this, with all the growth that she's trying to display, because I did see growth in that interview. You know what I'm saying? She did well, but with all the growth she has, I would just imagine that one would be able to approach the situation with the current mindset in their older child in a better way. I wish him success, you know what I'm saying? Because he's smart, and she definitely created a monster because he's good with his words, okay? And he's a stand-up comedian too. Like, I don't know, I haven't seen any of his stuff. I did watch a little bit of his podcast last night, but who knows? We'll see.
We will see. Well, there's so much to even speculate on. I definitely think that we're both on the same page as far as just being in support of her legacy, as far as she wants. Okay, because that's another thing that just popped in my mind. But we are both in support of her fight for equality, as far as Black women of all sizes and having the talent speak for itself. But as we see the full picture of a person, I hope that we can be accepting, and I hope that she can look and see what people are saying and maybe have a better viewpoint that she's right. Okay, she's right in the way of what she's saying about the trailers being, she talked about trailers blowing up and stuff like that. She talked about the treatment of being a Black woman, the pay being unequal, the whole thing about the Parkers. We didn't even talk about that, but we don't need to. She gave a lot of education, but here's what I want to see for her. This is what I wanted to say. She has a whole blank slate. Now, that I would consider that a cleansing. Let's just play this out. If Oprah and Tyler come and apologize to her, that would just be the icing on the cake. But we can't expect that. So you got to move on. You got to pick up and take what you got and move on. And I see her doing that with this tour. It is an opportunity for her to reflect and see, are there some pieces that are connected? But I would love to see, remember when she did Charm School? I would love to see her do something like that, but in a more entrepreneurial way, in the way of the business. I would love to see her come out, not even like some courses, but just like maybe it's a funny show, maybe it's another talk show, maybe it's something, but more entrepreneurial. I would love to see, because this is one of the things we touch on every now and again about how the music industry and the entertainment industry in Hollywood is so corrupt, but who is building another blueprint? I see Cat Williams doing it. I see Shannon Sharp doing it. I see others doing it. I see other people picking up and saying, oh, I can do this by myself, right? Because at the end of the day, you don't need to be a billionaire. You just need to be able to, work for yourself and create some work for yourself and create a legacy for yourself. So it's really ironic that I'm saying legacy, because the first part of your legacy is your son. And so when you do all of this great work for the community, the person who's going to live on and march on and speak on is going to be your offspring. So you'd want to get that nipped in the bud. But also, I'd love to see her do something entrepreneurial with this movement that she's on. And I'm calling it a movement because she's right. She has the facts. She has the information. She has the experience, and she can turn this into something if she's entrepreneurial with it, and people will love to see it. And I think we would support her even if she was on like a Zeus or a, something that might be unconventional. I think if she can pick up and create something and offer it up,
I I don't even think she have to create nothing. To be honest, I think that people know what they're getting, and that I don't know, maybe something like the conversation has to happen before it opens up other doors, because it's like their hands are probably controlling a lot of the other opportunities that she could be getting. You know what I'm saying?
You're talking about Tyler and Oprah?
Yeah.
Like, sure, but that's not going to stop her from doing a podcast.
I'm not saying that. I'm not. You're right.
Or a website or something else. Because I'm seeing the theme over the last couple of years of people coming out with these stories about people that the industry itself is corrupt. Like, there's no way that you get like billions of streams and get a $20,000 check. The industry itself. And then, she had said something in there about when was the last time you saw a black man stand up for a black woman and da-da-da-da. We're just not used to seeing that. And I think those are so what part of me wanted to say those are all assumptions, right? But then I had to think, like, when was the last time? And obviously we just saw Jay-Z do it for Beyonce. But outside of that, which is the most recent thing, I couldn't really think of a whole bunch of examples of a man standing up for his wife. So I don't know if she has a point or if it's an assumption.
Will Smith did it.
Hey, with humility. And yeah, it was, and it's funny that Will Packer had produced that. That
is funny.
But anyway, listen, we have seen it. I'm sure we've seen it, and it's not something that we probably see a whole bunch. But that point didn't land, in my opinion. Like, I don't know if that was it, because I just have to be honest in the way that I look at Sid or whatever his name is. Like, he's not invited to the cookout. I'm sorry, everybody, because I don't really want him sitting on my couch. I don't know what it is about him, but he's a fine man. He's not fine, like, but I'm saying, like, he's a nice man, and I think he's a gentleman, and I'm glad that she's happy with him. But I don't necessarily vibe with him, and so that might be a thing. I just want to throw that out there. But also, I just feel like, and I don't want to just like end on that, but it's like some of the things that she's sort of like advanced as possible answers maybe haven't been really vetted. And I would love, that's why we need Oprah and Tyler Perry to come out and just tell the truth. Like, if you didn't like her and you spread the rumors, just come out and tell the truth. Like, I would love that. But of course, it doesn't do anything for you. So
I'm telling you, because it's connected to some other shit that they probably don't even want to talk about. I'm telling you.
But they got their blueprint. They figured it out for themselves.
Not engaging is the best thing I feel like to do, because she's a wild card. They don't know what she might do. So, I mean, shoot, especially somebody who is a comedian that's on the road like that. Every night is different. Who knows what she might want to say? You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know, but shout out to her. I'm trying to work on looking at people in multiple ways instead of just taking one aspect. Because I could have just took what she said about her son and been like, "Oh, fuck Monique," just like about him. But I said, you know what? No, because I don't know everything. I don't know what context it is, and I'm not about to be madder about it than he is. You know what I'm saying? So
True.
He ain't mad about it. He handled it with poise. So hey, this is y'all business. I don't, I'm gonna see how it plays out. That's how I'm gonna start looking at stuff, because.
And I totally think they're gonna make up. I want them to make up. They're gonna make up. Like, he called her ma, and one of the things, like, he had written out his statements, and I completely can identify with this, right? Especially on this show. Like, I'll even write something down sometimes, and I'll get so caught up in what we're talking about that I'll just be like, "Oh, where was that?" But he had to write down his points, and he read his points, very well written, and I think that he just had some really good points.
He did. I was like, oh, and he's well spoken. I was like, okay, Monique, this is not a good look. No. But she answered my question and how she would handle it on the road, and so we'll just just looking to see what's going on. But we have so much other stuff to talk about too. I'm trying not to make this show about that, so we'll pick up on another
for
video.
Sure. Listen, that was a great conversation, and I really appreciate it. We were never going to get through all the notes that we had, but I wanted to say about her and moving forward with social media and stuff. I think feedback is is real, and if they, you know, obviously they have lives and people make comments and stuff, but I would just hope that she's like really absorbing what people are really saying and maybe taking that as feedback, and hopefully they make up it behind the scenes, her and her son, and she can take some things. But it did seem like he was a little irritated with the guy too, with Sid, and I just feel like hopefully they can reconcile all that.
You done had a stepfather before? He's probably
hella irritated. He reminded me, so I've had more than one stepfather, and my current stepfather.
Let me take that back. You're right. Let me take that back.
Hey, guess what? All right, so look.
You've had a father before that you didn't vibe with. So I can just imagine how you feel talking to him. You know what I'm saying? But the other stepfather is, yes, glorious. But this one
is so funny to me. Crazy one. It's so funny to me that that's the same thing that I thought of when I looked at him. I was like, but look at the differences between the two stepfathers, because one of them doesn't say a whole lot, but when he says something, it means something. It's like, oh, you're saying that because there's intention behind it. You're saying that because that was a valid point. You're saying that because it needed to be said, right? Oh, okay, that's why you're speaking, right? The other one wasn't that way. Yeah. So it's like, I don't want to hear you talking all the time. Like, why? Right. You see what I'm saying? So
I can imagine his point. I mean, I can see not his point, but I can see how he probably feels about him, because, you know, I feel like that's a universal feeling, because it's like, this person really isn't related to me, but they with my mother and they think that they know me, but they're really against me, using her words against me. That I see what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? So
I know. I wish we weren't even involved in that, but I get why it happened. But I hope they mend it.
To come out after you have an interview.
But look, and that's what I'm saying. Hopefully, it was either they're doing and they have something corroborated to be beneficial to them.
Nobody these days.
Or if it's not that way, then we cannot ignore the coincidence of the situations. We can't ignore the overlap, is what I'm saying. Like, oh, this person is asking for you to be accountable and you're asking for other people to be accountable. So why don't you demonstrate what that looks like?
Yeah.
And move along, right?
Yeah, because
that's all that is.
You're asking for if you're not, yeah.
Well, to land the plane, I got that from Sean Candle off of Think Media. I've been watching Think Media like it's an infomercial. I gotta get myself tight. But anyway, to land the plane, I just want to say anything that Monique does, I'm going to support her to a certain extent, because I did not like that she said that about her son.
No, but if I see her ass in the airport, I am going to stop her and be like, I do not like the fact that you said that. She put that in the motherfucking joke.
She's funny. Look, she had a moment on stage. It's live. Who knows what's going through her mind? I feel like she probably she had to address it. It wasn't in the best light or the best taste, but you know, you live and you learn. And she
felt that shit when she was about to say it. I know she was like, I'm about to say it, I gotta say it.
And I know some people laughed, but some people was probably like turned off by that.
When I heard it, I said, I was watching it and I said, and I walked out.
I think a lot of people are parents, and they, you know what I'm saying? That's probably why I thought it was funny, because I'm not a parent yet. Well, but when I thought about it in the context of Earl, I know I wouldn't have said that. I know I would never say that, because the thinking is for him, right? Not even just for him, but certainly with him in mind first. Like, I wouldn't want to say that to represent myself, but I couldn't forgive myself if I hurt him. You see what I mean? And so obviously she doesn't think that way about him. Yeah, right? In my opinion.
And granted, we don't know the context.
I don't know
either. You know what I'm saying? Because
I don't.
You know, I mean, shit. I'm not even gonna try to be funny, but it's some people that, if like that, you know, we'll leave that there. We just don't know the context behind what, or the inner workings behind their relationship, the types of things that
the banter,
how a person thinks. She knows him and he knows her. Yeah. So I'm just gonna respectfully be like, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Y'all work that out. I'll support both of y'all. Shalon, whatever your name is, I wish you the best. I hope you have something coming out. I'll support you too. He had on those flannel shirts. right? It's just like, this is the age of consumerism. Go ahead and come out with something. Put some t-shirts out or something. You better monetize.
That's what I'm saying. He's very well spoken, and I'm not saying that their situation isn't real, but it's like she's already in the industry or whatever, and you know he's already on TikTok or whatever. Like, you know, if you gonna be out here on stage doing this, I'm about to talk to.
Hell yeah, and I'll support him too. And so if he came out with something, I would buy one. That's what I'm saying. That's what this is all about. It's about exposure and listen. If I can have some positive,
sorry, my bad. Go ahead.
If I could have some positive sort of like you know, energy going to them, I'm sending it. And if they have some entrepreneurial you know, desires and some things that they want to put out there, I'm happy to support either of them.
He does have a TikTok too, so I know last night somebody was asking him something. He was talking about something that he needed to get, and they were asking him how much it was or whatever. So he does have a TikTok channel, and he was just live last night, like just randomly. Well, I don't know how.
I'm gonna go and follow him. I don't know his name, but I'm sure it's probably on one of those things.
It's SHO SHO_ Nomad NOMAD dad. SHO _ Nomad dad.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd love to hear more from him. I'm gonna go follow him right now. Maybe I'll DM him. We'll we'll interview him. We'll interview him, Tyler, and Oprah next week.
You are so silly, man. Oh my god. I mean, listen, I want to start looking at stuff in a more objective way or whatever. Try not to judge people like all off of one aspect, unless they're like doing something to kids or whatever. Then we can't have no conversation. But other than that, I'm just trying to be, you know, like, all right, like we did this tonight. We talked about, yes, she has a point on the equal pay. Team Monique on that.
Absolutely.
Good in that. Like after that interview, she was looking good. You know what I'm saying? Then her son came out and it was just like, oh, what the hell?
Yeah.
She doubled down on that jump, went on stage and said F him. So this is where we at right now. I don't know what's happened later on, you know, after that. But yeah, so other than that, I just want to say thank you for having me to have this conversation, because I wasn't going to go that in depth to it. You took majorly good notes. And I think we talked about a lot of stuff that, you know, people could relate to or whatever. So, yeah, I think this was good. You have to go catch the cliff notes on who the fuck did I marry? That's the name of her series.
Oh, that lady about the pathological liar.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go watch that. Yeah, I'm gonna do meal preps. I'm gonna watch that.
Been giving. What's y'all meal prepping?
I'm gonna do some stuffed peppers.
Oh, that's gonna be different.
I know, and I was gonna look up a recipe, and I was like, I'm Black. I'll figure it out. It's gonna be delicious.
Hey, I did that last night, right? And I made this pasta that I'm actually about to heat up because your nephew about to come in here now, and I put like crab meat in it. I put shrimp in it. I put what's that? Oh, he coming here with this bag, like since he grown and can go anywhere.
Hey, Elder Pearl, Moses Malone.
We going to eat at bomb places. Have y'all been to the Jerk Pit?
Oh, that sounds so familiar.
College Park is bomb.
Ah, it sounds familiar, but I don't really know.
Anyway, let's go ahead and wrap this up.
Listen, that was a great live. Thank you so much. I can't wait till the next one. You know what? I love going in for deep dives like this, and we're gonna talk about it later, but I'm so excited.
After you catch up on that, who the fuck did I marry? It's a TikTok series on TikTok, y'all. If y'all haven't heard about it, but also it's on YouTube as well. Somebody put it on YouTube as well, but you might want to come back and talk about that because it was a bunch of stuff happening.
Well, you know, next thing I'm talking about on Tea with TT, and you're welcome to join me. I have to talk about Chris Brown.
Okay.
How I feel he's being dirtied. I feel like he's being done dirty.
I saw the NBA thing.
And I just want to go on record to say that I wanted to talk about him before that. I've been wanting to talk about this for maybe like 3 or 4 months. But I felt a little hesitant. And then before the NBA thing happened, something else happened. So I had secretly hoped and dreamed and wished that he was going to come out on the stage on Usher's show.
That would have been tight, though.
It would have been tight, but
Bless you. Did you sneeze again? Bless you.
I did. Okay, I'm out. But I appreciate it. And yeah, we're going to talk about some stuff next. So,
all right.
Bye, everybody.